Happy Friday. So this week I've been talking about why we're getting the future of work so wrong. We're using the wrong language. I've talked about all of these terms are just confusing everybody. And I've talked about some of the terms I think we need to change, such as office first, remote first. It should be preference first. It's not hybrid, it's more than two things. It's a myriad of places. We need to stop talking about flexibility and talk about employee autonomy to work when they want, how they want, where they want. And the office doesn't just become a place for collaboration. The office becomes a place for activity-based working that has technology and facilities that you may not have elsewhere. So it just becomes another workplace of choice. And I wanted to wrap with productivity. Now, many of you will have heard me talk about this before, and I just think it is just a terrible, terrible indictment on the state of leadership, air quotes, in our organisations. When the pandemic hit in March 2020, the global demand for employee surveillance software went up by 80%. And this is research done by a company called Top 10 VPN. And if you look at read my newsletter this week, there's a link to their research in there as well. 80%. I thought that was probably a knee-jerk reaction to suddenly these managers or bosses couldn't see people. So there was a knee-jerk. But unfortunately, and I'll show you this graph. So this is pandemic. This is now. Yeah, there was a spike, but it hasn't gone down. And employees are continually being surveilled, monitored, even though they're returning to the office. So 80% in March and 75% in the first quarter of 2022. 75% increase for surveillance software. So we have these people who somehow believe or had the belief that when they could see people in the office sitting at a desk, that they were being productive, that they were performing. And then when they went and worked in a remote location and they lost line of sight, they said, I have now got to monitor keyboard strokes so I know that they're working. Since when did a keyboard stroke ever relate to performance? And they're monitoring the collaboration tools and the status. So they're now saying, if I see your light go to red, why aren't you working? And I'm doing some work that's not actively on the computer. I'm doing some thinking or writing or whatever it might be. And these managers have just amplified their micromanagement, and rather than checking in on their employees as they should, they're checking up on them. So we have to have a fundamental wake-up call to these people that it's not about productivity, it's about performance. Most of our workers that are working in remote locations are knowledge workers. They don't produce widgets which you can count and compare to how many they did last week to how many they did this week. They create, they solve problems, they think, they innovate. So you need to measure performance not on what you think is productivity, but on outcomes. It's about outcomes-based measures. It's not inputs, it's outputs. And it's outcomes that you should measure. I'll talk to you next week. Bye.